India's former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh passed away at AIIMS, Delhi. He was 92 years old.
Dr. Manmohan Singh served 2 consecutive terms as UPA Prime Minister from 2004 to 2014. His body reached his residence late Thursday night from AIIMS Hospital in capital Delhi and would be placed for the public to pay their last respects.
According to reports, national mourning of 7 days is to be declared for the Congress veteran, and all government programs scheduled for today are to be cancelled.
Cabinet is to meet today at about 11 a.m. local time. Manmohan Singh's last rites are to be conducted on Saturday with full state honours.
AIIMS in a statement said that Manmohan Singh was being treated for age-related medical conditions and had sudden loss of consciousness at home on December 26th. He was then brought to the medical emergency at AIIMS at around 8:06 p.m. local time. Despite all efforts, he could not be revived and was declared dead at 9:51 p.m. IST.
Condolences have poured in from all ends of the spectrum. Prime Minister Narendra Modi condoled the demise of former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and said that he rose from humble origins and made efforts to improve people's lives.
Leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi took to his X handle and said he has lost his mentor and guide in former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. He further added the former Prime Minister's humility and deep understanding of economics inspired the nation to grow.
Congress MP Priyanka Gandhi Vadra paid tributes to former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, saying few people in politics inspire the kind of respect that Sardar Manmohan Singh ji did.
The US has now put out a statement saying the country mourns the loss of former Indian Prime Minister, a key architect of the US-India strategic partnership. He championed the landmark civil nuclear agreement and led economic reforms that transformed India. His legacy of strengthening US-India ties will be remembered.
Dr. Manmohan Singh was the architect of India's economic liberalization in 1991 as finance minister in the P.V. Narasimha Rao government. His role as finance minister is regarded as a turning point in India's economic history. He ushered in bold reforms which put India on its growth trajectory.
He was also the governor of the Reserve Bank of India from 1982 to 1985, where he focused on economic stabilization and financial regulation.
And for more on this, our correspondent Dhanjot Kaur is joining us live from former Prime Minister's residence in New Delhi. Thank you so much for joining us, Dhanjot. We know that the centre will be declaring a period of national mourning for 7 days to honour former Prime Minister. What is the latest that you can bring in?
Well, the notification that came out just a few minutes ago, Jyotsna, if I could just quickly read out the key takeaways from it. The government put out the notification saying that it has been decided that 7 days of state mourning will be observed throughout the country. That was effective from yesterday and will be carried out till the 1st of January 2025. Now, during this period, the national flag will be flown at half-mast throughout India, and there will also be no official entertainment during the period of state mourning. On the day of the funeral, which, as we've discussed, is Saturday, the flag will also fly at half-mast in all Indian missions and high commissions of India abroad. So Dr. Singh is being accorded last rites with full state honours, is what we're hearing. Saturday is the day that they're saying that the last rites will take place. However, the timing of it is yet to be confirmed. Hopefully, after the cabinet meeting at 11 a.m. today, more details will be clarified with respect to what happens from here on. Now, as I mentioned before, Dr. Manmohan Singh has family, 2 daughters in particular, who reside in the United States. Their arrival is awaited. So I think with respect to that, the timeline of the last rites have been decided. Outside the residence, Jyotsna, where I'm standing right now, police security has been beefed up. The media has been given an enclosed enclave to stand within these particular barricades. Although some media personnel are approaching the gate as dignitaries come in. Later in the day, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also expected to come and pay tribute to the departed former Prime Minister. Jyotsna.
Right, Dharamjot, you've given us a rundown regarding Dr. Singh's last rites, and you're standing outside the former Prime Minister's residence in New Delhi. Tell us more about what is the situation like there. We can see that it's raining there, and who all have arrived yet?
Well, there's still some time, Raisha, before top political leaders start arriving. As I mentioned, the Prime Minister is supposed to be here later in the day. It's still very early for any of the party leaders to arrive. Members of the Congress party will also be holding a meeting before more of them come in from different parts of the country. As I've mentioned before, the Congress party had a high-level CWC meeting that was being conducted in Karnataka. So a lot of top leaders have flown in shortly after they heard about Dr. Singh's demise. Now, Rahul Gandhi flew in late last night. The party president also made his way to the national capital after hearing about Dr. Singh's death. So a lot of leaders have already come into the capital, Raisha. But with respect to the residents, many of them were also here late last night till about 2:33 a.m. So it will be later in the day, maybe in a couple of hours or so, that party leaders from across party lines will be coming in to pay their tribute. Also, I think the body is supposed to remain, from what we're hearing, that the mortal remains will remain here at the residence. There might be a chance that they are taken to the party headquarters close by for other citizens to come and pay their tribute should they wish to do so. Raisha?
Right, Dharamjot, thank you for joining us on the show and getting us the latest from on ground. And well, for more on this, we are now being joined by Dilip Cherian from New Delhi. He is a political campaign advisor and communication consultant. Welcome to WION, Mr. Cherian. Before we move ahead, I want to read out one of the quotations of Dr. Singh. He said that history will be kinder to me than contemporary media. Talk to us about some of his policies that have had a lasting impact in India, and how would you remember Dr. Singh?
Thank you. Dr. Singh was probably one of the most astute administrators, and he combined that with great warmth. Having known him over the years, I can say that here was a prime minister who could speak to people at the highest levels of government, of global relations, of international statesmen, and he commanded a respect which came not just from his deep understanding of economics, which is huge, but also from his understanding of how administration needs to be run. Here was a man who also ensured that his cabinet colleagues got the freedom to work, to speak, to be heard, to be visible in ways that had not happened before him. As a party person, I guess he wasn't as involved as many other leaders of the party would be, but that was something that everybody understood was not his strongest suit. Here was as I remember Dr. Singh, he was a man who enjoyed his reading, his deep conversations with small groups of people. He was collegial, willing to listen, and also willing to share how his journey had influenced his analysis of policy and the kinds of paths that he would choose. He had a vision for the future, very modern in his outlook, and as I said, so globally connected that he could actually command their respect on many counts at a time when India needed it and was just pulling out of a very difficult economic situation.
Absolutely. You mentioned a global connection of Dr. Manmohan Singh. And I'll just read out a quote which Barack Obama, he described him as wise, thoughtful, and scrupulously honest in his memoir, A Promised Land. If you could also talk to us about Dr. Manmohan Singh as an international leader.
You know, when one accompanied him or went on to places where he was going to be there, it was remarkable the kind of space that Dr. Singh received without even trying. His mere walking into a room would make leaders of countries far ahead of us economically, stand up, listen, and want to be part of any discussion with him. So I would say that in terms of global leaders, he not only had the soft touch and very rarely seemed to be in the position of someone who was asking. He was always someone who was giving ideas, giving leadership, giving warmth, the kinds of things that are not exactly the currency of global relations. But that is what made him stand apart among leaders of his time.
Right, Mr. Cherin, you told us that you've met Dr. Singh quite a few times during his two-term prime ministership. If you can perhaps share with us your experiences or any incident that has had a profound impact on you.
You know, Dr. Singh was someone who had taught at the Delhi School of Economics, where I had passed out of. So we had conversations not just about our alma mater, but also about the kinds of notions of economics that prevailed. It was always, in a sense, terrifying to speak to a man whose erudition was as deep as his was. But he had this ability, a very rare ability, to treat everybody like an equal. And I remember in my meetings with him, we would talk about the issues that mattered deeply to him, but he would ask questions and try and understand perspectives from the outside. As somebody who dealt with the world of business, reported on it, advised many large conglomerates, he would always want to hear from me how corporates were thinking about changes or initiatives that he had already made. He was also a family man. I knew his daughters and his wife, and I can say that he was someone who understood the immense importance of family surrounding you during a time when you're running the country, and yet none of them were involved even marginally in any of the politics of his time.
Absolutely. Now, you talked about how he was, of course, we call him the father of the economic reforms in India. He, in 1991, drafted what economists call one of the most radical budgets in India's history. If you could just elaborate upon how, if you talk about he was educated from Oxford. If you could just elaborate about his illustrious education background and, of course, his career as, a finance minister as well, and then growing and becoming the Prime Minister of India.
You know, as I just said, he, besides passing with his economics degrees from Oxford and everywhere, he also taught at the Delhi School of Economics in New Delhi. And he was considered a doyen of both agricultural economics as well as development economics. Dr. Singh's big quality in terms of being a globally recognized economist was the fact that he came from such a humble background and rose to have almost all the possible degrees and the honorary doctorates and other recognitions that previous prime ministers probably never had the opportunity. But remember, he always emphasized that he came from the kind of background where he needed to read his books under a street light. So that didn't hold him back. And also, the most endearing thing about him was that he was always in a happy teacher mode. He could break things down, explain things simply. And I think that allowed him to do the kind of reforms. The India of the 1990s and previously was completely and radically different from the India of 1991, largely because of the kind of reforms that he helped the country to do relatively painlessly. Meaning we allowed a lot of changes in the way industry was protected in India, and yet allowed Indian industry to know that they would be backed up by government with finance, with regulations that would help them to thrive, though the global gates were opened during Dr. Manmohan Singh's time. It really gave India the first step into globalization. At that time, he was finance minister, and he made sure that the country was able to cope with this dramatic change from times before.
Right, Mr. Cherian, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA with your thoughts on Dr. Manmohan Singh's demise. A man of few words, but clearly a man who had depth. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Now,